it got hard. I should just give up. What should you do when you just get started in life and you realize, man, I have no idea what I should do. I've been working hard. I've been going to school. I've been doing all this stuff, and I should just give up. I work with job seekers, and many of them are college students. So either they're just going into college or they're leaving college. And more I encounter this issue where people are saying, I should just give up. I should not even try. This is pointless. Why did I ever get started? And a lot of this is due primarily because of the economy and you know, we have a switch in the economy. So things are changing. So, you know, we have AI, we have a lot of other things going on. And eventually, you know, what I encounter when I work with other people, and eventually I get to things like on Reddit where I see people posting super negative things, you know, super apathetic comments, you know, and they have a lot of interesting questions. But more and more, I've been seeing a ton of this, a lot more than I used to, where people are just concerned about what kind of job they're going to get. How are they going to support themselves? You know, what should they do in life? Did they make a mistake with the job that they chose? And it becomes difficult because the way I go about searching for a job and when I help other people look for a job is by today's standards, not conventional. And I do that because when I was out looking for work, I had to do something that was not conventional. I had to go step outside of the lines in order to figure out how to get a job. And most people don't understand that. And yeah, things have changed in the last 15 years, but our reality has not. The reality that we all need work in order to sustain ourselves, that's not changing. That is not going to change. What has changed, however, is we are shifting from being so dependent on technology to either you need to be an AI or you need to shift backwards and you know, people just kind of move away from technology, or people are now moving away from technology and doing things like trades and that sort of thing. Because our economy in America has shifted, and a lot of these postings on Reddit are also global postings, but at least in America, the economy is shifting. We are in a recession, and most of the people who are out working, who are struggling, were not working during the 2008 recession. They were not. So they're not really sure what to do. When I see posts like this on Reddit, when somebody just asked, should I give up? Now, assuming this is a real person, a real problem, which based off of what this says, I have no reason to doubt it. You know, they say, I'm a 29-year-old female applying for jobs for 7 months now. I gave several interviews, tests, and whatnot. I got my first job at the age of 24. The job was not related to my education, but I needed to get started somewhere. I found out the job would not help me get anywhere as it was a basic clerk job. I then got an accounting remote job, but left that job after 6 months due to the higher pressure of deadlines. I tried applying for almost 3,000 plus jobs till now in each and every field. I gave 3 to 4 interviews for most jobs and get rejected in final interviews by companies. I'm depressed about my future and seeing my career going downhill in front of me. Yeah, so this is a great example of somebody in, you know, who's in Generation Z who didn't get the memo that things have changed, and didn't get the memo that they're actually supposed to work hard. And there are a lot of people in Gen Z that I've encountered who are actually who actually are hard workers and have a great vision for what they want in life and are actually pushing hard. But there's a certain part of Gen Z that, like I said, didn't get the memo. And I find it interesting how there seems to be a definite split. There's people who feel they know that something is wrong, and so they're making a decision and they're pushing hard and they're working hard and, you know, they're doing everything they need to do to have a great career. And then there's other people who are I don't know what the hell they're doing. They're just sitting around and thinking that the piece of paper that they paid money for is going to get them a job and establish their career, white picket fence, and live happily ever after. And it's really kind of interesting when you think about it, that we have so many people who are being left behind right now. And they're being left behind simply because of poor education. Not necessarily because their high schools were bad or anything like that, or that their colleges are necessarily bad. They're left behind because they're unaware of what's happening in the world, right? They just have no idea. And so in this case, we have a 29-year-old female, and I find this interesting. They said I got their first job at the age of 24. I mean, okay, so if we take that at face value, they just got their first official job at age 24. Now, I'm going to presume this person maybe worked at a grocery store or something earlier in life, and so they're saying their first job with their degree after they graduate college at the age of 24, which isn't good either. But this is a problem. This is a problem where people need to work. People need to figure out what the heck they're trying to do in life, what the options are, before they ever go to college. And I know I rant about it a lot. I feel like it's worth saying because it affects so many people's lives. And I say, I found out the job would not help me get anywhere as it was a basic clerk job. So I didn't really know what kind of clerk we're talking about here, though they do say in the next row that they got an accounting remote job, which kudos to you for getting a remote accounting job. They're hard to find. So was that position before an accounting clerk? That was a great job to get started on your accounting career. Now, it may not be a great job. It may not pay well, may not get you anywhere, but apparently it was good enough to get a remote accounting position. And just digging into this a little further, I mean, they say that they quit after 6 months because it got hard. It got hard. Now, I want you to think about your first job, your first real job, where you had no idea what you were doing. You were faking it until you made it. Where somebody had to sit there and be like, here's how you do this. Here's how you hold a hammer. Here's how you saw this. You're doing things the wrong way. Here's how you actually code this. That first job is fundamental to the growth of your career. And if you quit that before your training is complete, if you pull a Luke Skywalker, that's going to hurt. That's not going to work. It may work in the movies, but it doesn't work in real life. I am depressed about my future and seeing my career going downhill in front of me. Yes, you're 29 and you have no work history. And so this is actually one of those things that is not talked about very much is, I think many of us are familiar with the concept of ageism, where you're like, oh, that's a 50-year-old software developer. We ain't going to hire that guy. That's one component of ageism, but there's actually another component of ageism that doesn't get talked about. This is ageism when it concerns expectations. And actually a lot of mid-career people who change careers, midlife, you've been working one career and then you switch to another. And then you're 2 years into your career, let's just pick one, let's just say accounting, since we're on topic of accounting. You're 2 years into your accounting degree, but you have gray in your hair. So somebody looks and goes, that guy's the expert. That guy has been doing accounting forever. And the expectation is that you know exactly what's going on because you got a little gray in your hair. When in reality, you've only been doing it for a couple of years. And so when I encounter somebody that says, I should just give up, there's a deeper issue that's going on. It's deeper because they never really started their career at all. They never really got moving. They have no skills. They have no life. At this point, there's really not any way that they can contribute. And so if you are in a situation where you are like these people and you say, I should just give up. I should just quit. So if you're like this person, you're like, I should just quit. You're maybe 28, 29, 30, maybe in your 40s. And you say, I should just quit. There's nothing I can do to contribute to life. I can't pay my bills. I can't really accomplish anything. What can I possibly do? And a lot of that is absolutely true. It is. Sorry. The world lied to you. Our culture lied to you. They said, all you have to do is just sit around and wait. And just wait and wait and wait. And someday you'll get a degree at a prestigious university in which that job you'll be able to hold up and proclaim, I am now important. And when you hold up that piece of paper, somebody will say, I'll hire that person. But it doesn't work out that way. It doesn't. That's not how any of this goes. It's a race. And people have been running back since they were 10 years old, while you've been sitting around doing nothing. See, you've been told slow and steady wins the race, which it does. I mean, in some instances, But that only works if the hair stops running. The reality is, the sooner, the faster, the harder you run at the start of your life, the further you'll get. The tortoise will never catch up. You will never catch up. And so now you find yourself 30-something years old. You have no career. You have very little money. The best you could do is working at a retail store, and you don't know what to do. So what should you do? First thing is, you need to evaluate your life. Evaluate you. Figure out what skills you do have. Figure out things you do like. Figure out what things you definitely don't want to do in life. And so if maybe this whole time you've been working on cars, you've been changing oil, you've been doing those sorts of things, but you've ignored the fact that you have those car mechanic skills. Maybe you should go be a car mechanic. Many people ignore the things that come easy to them. They think, oh, it's easy. Anybody can do it. I know that was me. When I was 19 years old, that's what I told my dad. My dad said, you should be in computers. And the brilliant 19-year-old that I was, back in 1999, I said, well, Dad, you're stupid. Everybody knows how to use a computer. It's super easy, right? It's super easy. Everybody can do it. Everybody's an expert. Why am I at all different? Now, ultimately, life, kind of turns out a little bit funny. And it turns out that I actually am pretty decent with computers. But by the time I figured it out, I was old and grumpy. And therefore kind of got to a point to where I just didn't care anymore. If I had started when I was 16, 17, 18, 19, and actually been in computers the entire time, things would be completely different, obviously. And so you're stuck in this situation now. What should you do? What should you do? We need to work on evaluating your life, evaluating your skills, evaluating what your interests are, and starting from scratch. Forget whatever degree you have. Forget everything you've ever learned, and you need to start over. And as painful as that is, that's the only way you're going to get anywhere. And for me, when I did it, when I cut my life, when I severed my past and said, this is where I'm starting now, it may be 20 years later than I wanted, but I'm starting now. I had a purpose, and that purpose was to establish my life and do the best I can to support my family. Now, if you don't have that, you're going to have to find something else. You're going to find a whole nother reason. I know I'm not going to be around forever, and I guarantee you're not going to be around forever, but you have to do something. Ultimately, this is something that we've been lied to for years about. There's a different reality going on. And that reality is that our education has failed us. Our government has failed us. Our government said that all we have to do is be a top-down dictator, a top-down authoritarian, and everything will be perfect in your life. See, where I grew up, our state was one of the best states for education in the whole country. And by the time I graduated high school, it was no longer the case. What happened? What happened that things would fall apart from the 80s to the late 90s? In 1979, the Department of Education was formed, and its policies trickled down from above and filtered its way to the education system. We had concepts of things like No Child Left Behind, which sound great on the surface. They sound great because you think, oh, we're not letting any child get behind. But the part that gets forgotten, that gets ignored, or maybe it's intentional, is that the smart children, the ones who really, really are going to make a difference in our country, are now being pulled behind. They're not being left behind. They're simply not being challenged. And so the reality is that this construct of failure of education, failure of careers, failure of personal growth is all due to government policy. Now, we've had many years to fix this, many years to change things, but it hasn't been fixed. And people are still suffering. And now that we're in a recession, it's only going to get worse. Things have not been fixed for years. The companies are too large. The opportunities are too few. and nobody's doing anything about it. Thanks for watching. I'm SB Graham. This is Jobferno. If you have any questions, let me know. Send me an email at questions@jobferno.com. And as always, choose skills over money.